Today, we are going to dive in and reveal the 5 key factors that I truly believe were the reason why my business surpassed 6 figures this year. And I want to share with you some of the tips that I've learned along the way. If you're someone who's looking to start a business, or you're just curious to know what kind of things that I did or didn't do and mindset shifts that I had to have in order to have a business reach 6+ figures, then this video is for you. If we haven't met before, my name is Krizia. I share weekly uploads on how you can glow up. If that sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button. This was my first year that I was a full-time content creator running my business full-time because, as most of you know, I got laid off from my job in December of 2023. So all of 2024 was pretty much me going all into my business. There's so many things that really did contribute to this, and I'm sure I'm missing some of them now, but I tried to narrow this list down to 5 key factors so that I don't overwhelm you. But I did share an Instagram post that has a couple more points, a full total of 11 points. Let's get into it. The first point I want to talk about is discipline is the highest form of self-care. I'm trying to think back to when I first got laid off from my job. I remember this period of time when I was really not sure what was happening with me, but I could not get myself to produce the amount of videos that I was doing while I had a full-time job. It was almost like my body completely shut down. I remember telling myself I should be acting in a sense of urgency right now because I just got laid off from my job. But for some reason, the natural thing that I did was rest. Those first 2 weeks, I felt like I just got off of a roller coaster, to be honest. That was necessary for the time being. I needed to give myself that time to recharge, but then I quickly realized discipline is necessary, and it's actually a form of self-care. In my opinion, it is the highest form of self-care. And when I say discipline, I mean all things included: rest, sleep, health, fitness, being productive in a balanced way, to preserve your energy when you need to, and also to be productive when you need to, and not burning yourself out. So that was a huge lesson that I quickly realized when I now had a full-time business to run. I basically had to have this mental talk with myself that I'm the only one that can get myself out of the position that I'm in and into the dream life that I want to be in. I have all this time. What am I supposed to do with my time? Being disciplined is the best thing you can do for yourself. The word discipline can be off-putting to a lot of people. I know for me, even sometimes it feels very like aggressive. I mostly mean doing small things every single day that will contribute to the long-term vision for yourself. What small thing can I do right now or today that I will thank myself for in the future, that will benefit me in the future, that will contribute to my future self? On some days, that discipline meant planning my content for the week. When I'm not feeling like sitting down to film 5 videos, I simply won't. I'm not going to force myself to do something that I am not feeling inspired to do. And that is also discipline. There were times where I did do that and I just never felt good about the content that I did anyways. On some days that I batch filmed like 10 videos, I ended up liking 2 of them. And I felt like that was a waste of time and energy. And it also was forcing myself to do something that I wasn't naturally inspired to do, which can lead to burnout really quickly. So I remember telling myself, okay, what intentional thing can I do today that will benefit me tomorrow, that will benefit me next week, in the future? Basically, training yourself to take small actions. On some days it'll be bigger actions, but even if it's just a small action, it's so much easier to keep the momentum going up if you can take even the smallest action every single day, versus being super productive one day, taking months off because you burnt yourself out and then trying to do it all over again. It's just not sustainable. So I realized that finding a balance of discipline that works for you and just even taking the smallest action leads to such bigger results, and it compounds a lot quicker. There were a lot of times when I didn't feel like filming a YouTube video, but I was already dressed because, let's say I filmed a campaign for another project and I'm already ready, and I told myself, yes, I would love to go lay down on the couch right now. If I'm already ready, then I'm just gonna film the video. I don't have to edit it now, but I'm just gonna film it because I'm already ready. So that just takes out the hassle from doing it later. what small things can I do? You're not always gonna feel like doing what you need to do. This just comes with the territory of wanting success in something. I used to think a long time ago that you had to be motivated to take action. Then I realized that you have to take action to stay motivated. When you start taking action, it really builds self-trust within yourself. And I remember on so many days when I didn't feel like doing something, but I knew that it was just going to require a little bit more effort and a little bit of a mindset switch. I then was so relieved after I did it, where I was like, you know what? I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad that I showed up for myself. And it creates this sense of confidence within yourself, because you're like, okay, next time I feel like I don't want to do something, yes, of course, be mindful of not over pushing yourself, but you'll then kind of stretch your limits a little bit and know that you're capable of so much more than you think. And it kind of applies in the same scenario of a workout. I know that feeling when you show up to a workout class and you didn't feel like going to that class and you ended up being so glad that you did. It's kind of like that. Half of the work is showing up, and it changes the way that you show up for yourself in the future, because you're now building that self-trust that you have, that when you need to do something, even if you don't feel like doing it, you can do it. But in the beginning, especially when you're starting up a business, when you're starting up a goal, like even a fitness goal or anything in that nature, having the discipline to stay focused consecutively in the beginning is going to help you see results longer term. You know, if you get the most difficult task out of the way early on in the day, you then have more time to not stress about it, think about it. The next thing I want to talk about that I really do believe made a huge difference, and something I strongly recommend that you do when you reach a certain point in your business and you're like, okay, I've proven some results, I've proven income, I can make money doing what it is that I'm doing. Then the next step to scale your business, to grow, is you need to free up some of your time. You need to not do it all yourself. You need to start delegating some tasks, and specifically the things that you're not naturally good at or you don't have an interest in being good at. I think in the beginning, it's really hard to accept the idea that you need help, especially for people, entrepreneurs, creatives. I feel like we tend to believe if we don't do it, it's not done right, because we are so passionate about the work that we do. It was really hard in the beginning, like before even I got laid off from my job, the thought of ever having anyone help me, like I guess I just wasn't used to that. I was raised with this thought process that I had to do it all myself and that I couldn't trust people to help me. And so that was a limiting belief that I had to work through. And I especially had to work through that this year, because I realized, you know, your time is a valuable asset. That's the one thing that you can never get back. So if you waste your time trying to do everything yourself, it's really impossible to scale your business and also have sanity. So highly recommend delegating tasks that you're not passionate about or not good at. And to give you some examples, some of the things that I personally delegated were things like taxes, hiring a CPA. I am not passionate about this whatsoever, even though I will admit I spent hours and hours trying to understand taxes, way too much time trying to understand taxes, expenses, things that I should be filing, and like all the technical business stuff that I genuinely have no interest in. But because I thought in my mind, I needed to figure this all out myself and learn this all myself, because that scarcity mindset was telling me, well, you can't afford to have someone do this for you, so just do it yourself. And while I do believe when starting a business that may be true, I got to a point in my business halfway through the year where I realized I am making a good amount of money. And so rather than taking that money and buying meaningless things, I'm going to reinvest it into my business and hire people to do the things that I find really time consuming and can actually cost me a lot of money if I don't do it correctly. And taxes is one of those things, because if you don't know how to expense properly, I could be missing out on opportunities to expense deductions, and I could be overpaying taxes. I could file something incorrectly. Just recently, I ended up even hiring a bookkeeping team. Most of 2024, I had been just me doing my own brand deals, sponsorships, contracts, and all of that. I ended up hiring an attorney, because anytime that I work with brands or do collaborations, sponsorships, there's always a contract involved. And I actually was, for a long time, even the year before when I had my full-time job, I was marking up contracts myself and basically negotiating and spending a lot of time in my email going back and forth with brands about contract terms, what I did and didn't want in there. And it was like a lot of time and energy, mental energy, especially for me to spend time on that. So I decided to hire a attorney, which was such a huge help in my opinion. The time and energy it took for me to be involved in contracts and all these terms and complicated things, I was losing my ability to feel inspired to create, because it was like becoming draining. So I acted quickly and I decided that I was going to hire someone. So luckily I did. I can focus on things that I actually want to focus on, which are things like creating. When you get to a certain point in your business, and I'm telling you this because even if you aren't making any money yet, I do think it's really valuable to consider these things so that you can start mentally preparing, just in your mind at least, that one day you will delegate certain tasks. Especially if you want to scale, you're going to have to. Like, it's really truly impossible to scale if you do everything yourself. And if you want to be not scaling, that's totally fine. But just know that in order to grow, you do need to hire help. With that free time, after hiring a little bit of extra help, I could invest more time into myself and my mental health, my physical health. I was able to sign up for a Pilates instructor and take bigger steps in my health journey and my fitness journey, and which does contribute to how you feel every single day when you are, I'm not saying you need an instructor to be active. You can work out at home if that works for you. But I felt like investing in myself was more feasible, more possible for me, because I freed up some of that time and energy. I was able to consistently stick to a workout routine. And I also hired a therapist, which was going to benefit my mental health in the long haul too. Speaking of time being your biggest asset, this leads me into my next point, which is protect your energy. This year, more than ever, I have really taken my energy seriously. And I think it's partially because I had no other option. I needed to be fully focused on my business, on my life, because again, getting laid off, it can be scary, and I needed to be really focused if I really wanted to make this work, to be a full-time creator. And I'm so happy to say that I have, and I will continue to. Protecting my energy was no doubt a huge contributing factor to being able to focus. If you just give your time and energy to anyone and anything, you will realize, especially if you're doing something full-time, like running a business or starting a full-time side hustle, you will realize very quickly how spending your time and energy in the wrong places with the wrong people is going to deplete your energy from doing the things that you know you should be doing, and the things that actually matter, and the things that are going to grow your business. You know, I never really had a huge social life since moving to LA anyways, but there were a lot of times that I did turn down going to certain events, going to certain coffee dates with people, and like just having more of that kind of free time to do nothing. I decided that I wasn't going to do a lot of that this year, and that really helped me stay focused on my goals. And, you know, of course, every now and then we did date night and, you know, still went on trips and stuff like that. I just think for the most part, I was more strategic with my time, because it was easier for me to say no, basically, to things that I knew were not going to serve my mental well-being, my health, or my goals. And I think a lot of people underestimate how much of that discipline kicks in when you are really focused on growing a business. You have to protect your energy a lot more than you realize. I think before that, like years before that, I spent a little more time reflecting too much on things like, oh, overreading into people's actions. I'm just going to be so for real. I had no time. I was so heads down focused on my business this year that I did not spend really any time thinking about who liked me. I just made this the year where I accepted people for who they are, and I met them where they met me at. So I'm not going to invest all my time and energy into a friendship, even the ones that I had for so long, because I realized they weren't pouring into my cup as much as I was pouring into theirs. And I just had to pull myself back and realize that I'm going to invest in the people and things that I feel are equally invested in me and my goals. In a nutshell, my boundaries were very firm, which leads me to my next point. So the next point is decide and act quickly. So just like I said, I had leaned into my intuition and spent little time questioning who I felt was genuine around me or whatever. This year, more than ever, I learned to decide and act quickly. I had been an indecisive person pretty much my entire life, and that was really difficult for me. There's something about when you feel that fire and you are really all in on a goal, and especially for me, realizing that it was now no longer a luxury to build my business. It was like, I either do it or I don't. I either sink or I swim, you know? And so I took no time to waste on making decisions. I just learned to decide and move on, because you have to understand that overthinking is the enemy to progress. If you have an idea to start, if you have an idea you want to film, if you have a goal in mind, if you needed to fire someone or like basically cut ties with a freelancer or anything in that nature, you have to decide and act quickly, because the more you overthink, the more it spreads and it like consumes your energy, it consumes your thinking, and it basically just holds you back. Stick with your intuition, especially if you have a strong sense about something or someone. Act on it and move on. The goal is to just keep moving forward. You know, there's no way to avoid mistakes anyway. If you act on something and it ends up not being what you thought, it's a learning lesson, and those are necessary to be better at making decisions in the future. But if you become scared to make decisions because you're scared to make the wrong one, that's still a decision in itself, and it's going to affect you and your business. The last point I want to make is reinvest in your growth. I personally would suggest you invest in tools, resources, coaches, courses, health, fitness, like a gym membership, anything that is going to build and grow you as a person or your business. So a lot of the profits that I made this year, honestly, I did not splurge on anything fancy, like a lifestyle upgrade, a new car, do whatever you want with your money. But I personally just wanted to reinvest whatever I made back into my business, back into me, because I am my business. So that is something I truly believed helped me scale in the time that I did, because rather than spending money on pointless things or materialistic things, I decided, how can I reinvest this to grow my income, to also grow the foundation of the business, and to better enhance my skills. It's very tempting when you start making money to want to just splurge on anything and everything. And don't get me wrong, I did have little moments of that where I upgraded my seats on a flight to first class. Pretty much majority of reinvesting into myself and my business. And that is just something that you have to get used to doing so it can keep growing. And it's like nurturing the seeds that you've planted. It's gonna keep them growing, it's gonna keep them flourishing. And I would say after you can prove that this business can do this year after year for a consistent amount of time, of course, built my savings account. I, of course, invested some of that money. So just be smart with your money, but use it to grow yourself in the business, basically. If you made it to the end of this video, comment down below standing on business so that I know that you made it to the end. And if you have any questions about any of this, please also leave them in the comment box below. And let's make 2025 a most successful year. Thank you so much for all the love, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.